All right, hello again, everyone. Just wanted to start off by saying, for all you that did view my first post, thank you. And I do want to apologize. That was, emotionally driven and very organic. So it did go a little long. So today we're just going to kind of hit on a few points as pertaining to this Muslim ban. First, I'd like to say we need to think about, even though the judges come out and, put a temporary restraining order to stop the ban, we need to consider if the damage on how it was rolled out and the reasons behind why it was rolled out by the administration. If the damage done by that is too late to kind of correct. And what I mean by where it's coming from. We already had extreme vetting in place under the Obama administration after the issue in Kentucky, Bowling Green, the massacre that never happened. He implemented more strict vetting for visa, folks and looking to get visas, and for refugees that were coming from Iraq, particularly, and Syria. So, first question that the mainstream media is not asking anyone is, was this even necessary to consider? Which I say no, it wasn't. There was no problem until the rollout of this, executive order created one. And I think that's exactly the point. You got to figure that it's coming from President Bannon and his puppet Trump as, a white nationalist ideal, making America white again, as white as possible, and just fueling the fires of, divisiveness and xenophobia, Islamophobia, and racism in this country. That's, the heart of this executive order. It had no purpose other than to feed into that, white nationalist ideology. Now, with that being said, the damage that's been done by that in the rest of the world has not made our war against extremist Islam and the terrorists that support it any easier, and has not made us any safer. I just wanted to go over a few things, that I've kind of analyzed as to why that's the case. So let's just think about this. The ban is going to increase the risk of terrorism because it's going to inherently reduce cooperation with our allies in the Middle East. Why would anybody want to support and help push the policies of a nation that sees them as terrorists, just painting them all with a broad stroke? You're from a Muslim majority country, obviously you can't be a productive member of American society because we're at war with majority Muslim countries. So inherently you all must be the enemy until proven otherwise. So it's going to reduce cooperation, which is desperately needed as far as intelligence gathering and things of that nature in the region. And let's speak about how it's going to affect those Muslims here at home. Domestic Muslims that are already on the edge because they've been marginalized. They go to high school, they're picked on, they're called Bin Laden, they're called, camel jockey, sand nigger, all these stupid racial epithets that Muslims, Arabs, South Central Asians hear on a regular basis, even if they're not Muslim. I mean, someone could be Christian, Jew, Sikh, or Hindi, and they'll still hear this crap. So that just goes to the ignorance of the American populace. For not all of us, thankfully, there are some of us that do know the difference between those. But if you're a Muslim, well, let's take religion out. If you are an immigrant to a nation, and that nation comes out basically saying, yeah, I know you have family that's over in another country fighting for our cause, risking their life on a daily basis, and you would love to be able to see them. But you know what? I don't care. you're not going to see your family, at least not until we can prove that they're not on the other side. Well, if you're a teenager and you come from that country that's being marginalized by the government that you're living under, and you're being harassed on a daily basis because of where you come from and because you're not a real American, you're going to be a little bit angry, and you're going to want to lash out against your oppressor. And in this case, it just happens to be Muslims are being oppressed by this current regime in America. So it's going to push those more moderate Muslims that were already on the edge, that are feeling, set aside by the society that they live in. It's going to push them to that, breaking point of, what else do I have? My only identity now is that I'm a Muslim. So I'm going to have to support, what makes me feel better about at least being a Muslim, since I'm not accepted as an American. That's one way it's going to increase, domestic terrorism. And let's talk about the second point. Me being a former soldier serving in Iraq with friends that were interpreters, and having Iraqi friends that I didn't work with in Iraq, just here in the U.S. To name a few brave folks, Islam Pasha, Mohammed Al-Mumayez, those are just a couple of the Iraqi interpreters I worked with that were, I say they were fortunate enough to get to the U.S., but they were able to get here, and now they're being productive citizens in this country. So let's look at it from the perspective of an interpreter. If I'm on the ground, my life's being risked on a day-to-day basis just by being seen with the occupiers of the country. What incentive would I have to help them if I know I'm never going to be able to leave this place that's, where I'm a marked person for death, for cooperating with the occupiers? So if I hear the country that I'm trying to support and help on the ground tell me I'm not welcome there until I've proven that I'm not a terrorist, which I don't know how you prove that. Most people aren't terrorists, they become radicalized, and it's through policies just like this that radicalize moderate Muslims. So it's just counterintuitive. But what incentive do interpreters have to help our American soldiers and intelligence gatherers on the ground? I would think they would be quite the opposite. Maybe now things get leaked. Soldiers are set up. Intelligence operatives are set up. So it has not made things any safer for our personnel on the grounds in these countries. And like I said, it falls right in line with ISIL's narrative, that the West, particularly the United States, is at war against Islam. It's not a war against, authoritarian regimes that are oppressing your religious beliefs. No, it's a war against your religion, your identity. They don't want you. They want to exterminate you. It's, in their eyes, this is the Second Crusade, and the United States represents that. So, those are just the basic ways that this does not in any way make us safer. It only flames more violence from these extremists. It just legitimizes everything that ISIL, ISIS, Daesh, Al-Qaeda, whoever, what they've been saying for years. So it just fuels right into that, like I'd said before, where it's coming from. It's meant to be divisive. It's meant to say, hey, we're white nationalists. We all have this, agenda in this administration that everyone that's not us is wrong and they don't belong here. So let's just get to some numbers here. According to the Migration Policy Institute, since September 11, 2001, we've let in, up to this point, just over 800,000 refugees. And since then, exactly 3 of those 800,000 have been, arrested for planning terrorist activities. 2 of them in, Bowling Green, Kentucky, the big massacre there, weren't even plotting attacks on U.S. They were plotting to get weapons back to their Al-Qaeda affiliates in Iraq. So no real tangible evidence that refugees at all pose a threat to us here in the United States. Okay, and that was of course the event that caused the extreme vetting process to get back, be put in place, and nullifying any need for the Trump administration or the Bannon administration to implement their own extreme vetting process. So I did the math on that. So 3 out of 800,000, that's about 0.0034%. So not even 0.5% of refugees have posed a threat to U.S. citizens. Okay, so just simple numbers. I know those of you out there that are staunch Trump supporters, numbers and facts don't apply to you. You live in your alternative universe, but for some of us, facts do matter, and math is something that really exists. And so, just on this subject, I wanted to kind of quote Ben Franklin, because this is very pertinent to today's situation. Ben Franklin once said, "Those who surrender freedom for security will not have, nor do they deserve, either one." Well, as Americans, especially being on the Trump train here, you have allowed him and Bannon's fear-mongering to have you set aside their agenda of taking away your freedoms. They're already trying to delegitimize press, legitimate press. They're trying to legitimize fake news, i.e. Breitbart, InfoWars, and any other blog site out there that just happens to agree with their agenda. So next, what is it next? I mean, he just said today that there's lots of killers, when it came to Putin. He agreed with Putin, said, "I respect him. Yeah, he's a thug, but hey, we've been thugs too." He said, in an interview before he even ran for president, that, in England you can have people arrested for in the press for making negative comments about you, and then that's a good thing. So freedom of speech is something that's going to be taken away, which is your most essential freedom, or at least that's part of their agenda. Hopefully we're going to be able to resist that. So just keep that in mind, that we're not acting like the home of the brave or the land of the free at all right now. We're willing to give up essential, freedoms and liberties just to make ourselves feel more secure with some threat that doesn't even exist. That's pretty shameful as an American public. And to feed into the Bannon-Trump administration in that manner is it's sad, very sad. It's big league sad.